The following is a rackradioshow.com exclusive.
And welcome back to The Rack right here on wildtalkradio.com, brought to you by our friends over at Wrestling Figure Photography. Go to youtube.com/mbg1211 and follow the journey today. I am super excited because joining us right now is one of the stars of the upcoming DVD, Wrestling Road Diaries 3, which ships starting on November 6th. Please welcome to the show, Colt Cabana. How are you doing today?
Hey, that's me, a star of a B-rated documentary produced by myself.
Oh, it's not B-rated?
Well, it's actually not rated. We don't rate it through the system, so.
It's awesome rated, right?
Yes. It's A. They gave it an A+.
It's A+ rated, y'all. Go check it out. So I have to ask you,
No.
as a Chicago sports fan, what does it feel like to have the Cubs in the World Series?
Oh, man. Well, for context for anyone, last night was the first night of the World Series to watch, and we did not do well. But, yeah, the reality is I've been watching the Cubs since I was basically 5 years old. My mom is a diehard Cubs fan. She's 70 years old. I've grown up watching her watch the Cubs lose every single year. And, so, like, for that 70-year-old Jewish mother of mine, like, I'm so happy, and I'm happy for myself. It's a team that I grew up. It's what I know. It feels home, and it's a special moment for me and for Chicago. It's exciting.
I have to tell you, we have another host on this network, and he's a big Cubs fan, and he basically told everybody, because his show is on Sunday night, and it's when the Game 4, I think, of the World Series is going to be, and he said, if the Cubs are doing well, I'm forsaking you, all of you, on Sunday.
Wow.
He's like, because...
The big forsaking.
The big forsaking, yes, because he wants to see this, because, like, for him, his grandfather was a diehard Cubs fan, never saw them go to the World Series, and so he's excited that he gets to see it. So it's an awesome experience.
Yeah, it's exciting. And Chicago's really, obviously, like, whenever we're doing good, they light up, but obviously, this is like crazy history, right?
I bet. And, well, you're making history, you've produced, you're A-rated. Segue. About, your Wrestling Road Diaries. This is your third documentary, and you've decided to do comedy this time.
Mm-hmm.
And now you've done different versions in the past, like with Daniel Bryan and Doc Gallows, but can you kind of tell us a little bit of history behind the series? What made you decide to do it?
Yeah, well, I had to do comedy because we had to do something different. We couldn't do the same, I couldn't do the same Wrestling Road Diaries every single time. And just, for the people listening, the first one, Daniel Bryan and I, who at the time was Bryan Danielson, for years we had wrestled on the independents, and it was such a weird scene. And unless you were really immersed in it, there's guys in different places who only stay in their own in their own town. We have guys in Chicago who only wrestle in Chicago, and when I go everywhere, there's guys who only wrestle there. And at the time, Bryan and I were lucky enough to be these guys who literally went everywhere to everyone's weird, crazy scene. And we wanted to document it, and luckily enough, finally in 2009 we just did it ourselves. But as we were doing it, Bryan got signed to the WWE, so essentially I kind of did it myself. And it was such a great experience, and it was so successful, and fans got to see a different side of indie wrestling that they never even knew was around or available to see, and that kind of became almost the cornerstone of like my, I guess, entrepreneurial go forth as that became successful, and my podcast became successful, and just the idea of this DIY and pro wrestling tees became successful. So the third one now is obviously I'm a comedy wrestler. That's what I love to do. I wrestle all different styles. I can wrestle serious. I can do hardcore. I can do lucha if you really wanted me to. But my love is comedy wrestling, and it's never really been documented like this. Like no one's ever really like picked it apart and analyzed how and why. You can kind of get away with the idea of comedy wrestling. And so I brought over two of the funniest comedy wrestlers in the world. I flew over a guy from Scotland. I flew over a guy from Japan. And me, Kikutaro, and Grado, we do a kind of a long weekend road trip. And you get to see us on the road. You get to see how independent wrestling works. You also get to see these comedy matches. You get to see what works and what doesn't work. Because there's some stuff in there that's just not funny. And that's the stuff we also want documented. Like the idea of trying a joke in the ring and it not working. So you kind of see all aspects from it, and that's kind of where we came from. It hasn't been done, and so I wanted to do it.
So, just out of curiosity, what was a really good idea you thought you had that didn't work? Just as an example.
It wasn't a good idea, but Grado wrestled Tracy Smothers, and I don't think that worked at all. And they also wrestled for like 50 minutes.
Oh my god!
Yeah, because Tracy Smothers, he's like notorious for like getting it. He does that Memphis stalling, like he thinks it's 1987, but it's 2016. So it's kind of come full circle. So it's kind of funny. So like you think, but it's too much, and so that like. Not that it falls flat, but it makes for a great movie. It really does, and you get to see like kind of all of us dissect it, and it's kind of cool.
I was watching the trailer, and it's you in the back with Grado and Kikutaro, and you're talking about the balloon spot, where you guys just stop and you point up and go, "Oh look, it's a balloon," and like everybody loses it, and you were so surprised that just was so over.
Yeah, well, because it's kind of funny because that's like a callback. There's a video that went, I don't know, viral, but got a lot of hits of me and Colin Delaney doing that stop, look up, and slap. So I'll do that a bunch. So it's almost like, and Cleveland is a smart crowd, AIW. So like when I do that, people know exactly what I'm doing. And then to go to the balloon, it kind of takes like a whole new level of that spot or that idea. That's where the comedy comes in. And yeah, like it's just. You never know what's going to work. And it's kind of like the idea, the whole point of that, and you'll see in the movie, is that like every match is new, everything is fresh. We take whatever we can use around us and use that for comedy purposes or whatever we can. And that was just a thing that came up on the spot. And we're like, oh, let's try that. And then, like I said, that kind of got like one of the best reactions of the match. And
also, speaking of the trailer, I want to thank you, just personally from the bottom of my heart, for putting subtitles on Grado.
Yeah. Jack Ettinger, who edited and directed it, he was like, "Do you think we need it?" And I was like, even if we don't, I think the idea of having subtitles for a guy who speaks English is kind of funny. So that's kind of like another layer of comedy within, like an unwritten layer of it within the movie.
I'll admit, I laughed at it when I watched it. I was like, "Oh, they have subtitles on Grado. That's hilarious."
And he speaks English.
And he speaks English.
Yeah.
But his accent's so thick that sometimes it all kind of blurs together and you're like, what?
Yeah, he's something else. I've been to, I tour Scotland a lot, and every summer I go to Edinburgh for every August. And so, like, I've seen him in his element, and it is wild. Like, they're all,
I bet.
Yeah, they're all talking to each other, and, like, you can't understand a thing, and they know exactly what's going on. And it's a different world, too. Like, he's a television star up there, and he's a big star within that little like area, like a big star, And it's kind of crazy that you take him out of that element. He's not as big a star. Like people know him, but he can't walk down the street without people saying, "Hey, Grado, it's yourself." Like it's bigger than wrestling in that world, but that's just that world and those guys who speak that crazy language.
Was that just one of the reasons that you picked him? Because I'm curious to know why you picked Grado and Keith Kikutaro, other than, they're your best friends.
I like the idea that he's Keith Utaro, like that's his name. That's his American version name, like when he comes to school as a kid to America. Like he can't be Kikutaro because they all changed their name, so he's Keith Utaro. Okay, so Grado, I fell in love with Grado. Sanjay Dutt pointed out that Vice documentary that Vice did on him in 2010, I think it was. And if you've never seen it, it's on YouTube. It's called The British Wrestler, I think, or British Wrestling. It's by Vice, And this was kind of like before they blew up. And then, Grado and I were part of this BBC documentary in 2013, I think. So there's just something to him. He's just so lovable. And I don't know, it's hard because I don't know if it's transferred over. I don't watch TNA as much as I should. And I don't know how much is transferred over to those fans who had no clue who he was. But if you're in his element and you see him, he's just amazing. He's hilarious, and it's natural comedy too. We talk about this in the movie, but I go to so many shows and I see wrestlers trying to be comedy wrestlers who really aren't funny guys, or maybe failed regular wrestlers. So they're like, "Oh, I'll try comedy because I can't do regular." And There's just something about being a natural comedian that helps. And Grado and Kikutaro outside of the wrestling ring are just, they have natural wit and they're naturally funny. And so right away, that's what you could, you know, that's like the building block of what makes them so successful.
Yeah, and I would agree with that. That it's an art form for any type of wrestling because it's such a skilled profession, but especially comedy because it's got to be stressful at times to do comedy wrestling. Or is it a little bit easier than just like straight serious wrestling?
No, I agree. I think so. You know, you take the idea of wrestling and like that's hard itself. But then I think that's what people don't understand is that like if you then add like a crazy different element to it. So you know, even so, comedy or high flying. Like if you're going to do basic Lou Thez wrestling, that's still hard. But then when you add an out, like you look at a guy like Ricochet or Osprey, or you know, or even like a Necro Butcher, and you just you do these different divisions of natural wrestling or basic wrestling. It's a different part of your brain now starting to work. And yeah, and we talk about it in the movie is just that you have to be a really, really good, skilled basic wrestler to then become a good comedy wrestler. It's not the other way around. It's not you can't be a comedy wrestler because you failed at regular wrestling. It is an art form. It's very hard to do, and you know, it's you look at Kikutaro's been wrestling 20 years now, so you know, it's something you really have to work at.
Because you changed gears a couple years ago when you had that just epic, and I have to compliment you on it because it was epic feud with him, with, I'm sorry, Adam Pearce when you did the 7 Levels of Hate all over the world. And at least to me, it was something a little bit different for you where you were more serious. You weren't doing as much as the comedy shtick. You guys were just basically out there to kill each other every time you went out there. Was that like a refreshing change to you and then to go back to the comedy, or was that more difficult?
No, I like to think it just shows my versatility, if you will. Like, you know, I did the same thing with Homicide, and I've done it with Nigel and Ring of Honor. Anytime you see me in a real storyline-based thing, you know, I think that's the idea is I can change gears when you give me a storyline and there's a reason. And that's kind of a look into the psychology of professional wrestling is when there's a reason, then then I can do it and I'm capable of it. But if you're, you know, if it's a one night, like a one-off or a regular match, like if you're just like, this is a regular match, my basic instinct will want to be a funny guy, you know? That's my natural want to do in a match. And so, but then if you give me a reason, if you put a title on the line, you know, or if you put reasons, I can't think of the word. It's in the morning and my head hurts from wrestling. You know, but if you put stuff on the line, like that gives me that's why I'll change and I obviously can become serious and I like to think I'm pretty good at it. But if you give me the option, I'm going to choose be the funny guy. So that's what I like. That's where I'm at my best, and that's where I like to be, and that's how I like to wrestle. Like because wrestling for me is fun. This is what it's my living, but like I love my living. It's a fun job, and like I want to just have fun out there, and I'm having the most fun out there when I'm actually being a goofball in the ring.
It would seem like it would be more fun.
Yeah,
That's just me personally because I'm a goofball too. So
right.
it's more fun to be a goofball than to try and be serious all the time. I honestly can't understand serious people.
Well, for people like you and I, but you look at a Kyle O'Reilly or a Davey Richards, like they're built a little differently than us.
I guess so. But you said your versatility. You also do stand up from time to time.
I don't necessarily do stand up, but I do comedy, and yeah. Like I have a comedy show. I took it. We do it in Edinburgh every single year for the Edinburgh Fringe Festival. Marty DeRosa and I are doing a comedy show in Chicago the night before Thanksgiving at North Bar in Chicago. If anyone's around the area, but yeah, I mean I've done some stand up. I've opened for Mick Foley a bunch, but it's not like my favorite. I like the idea of kind of like variety style shows, or I don't know. I like because I can do comedy with my podcast, or I can do comedy on stage with like the subject of wrestling, and that's kind of what that's the most fun to me. Or YouTube videos. Marty and I have done those worst promo evers, and those are just all comedy. So that's the comedy that I like to do outside of the wrestling ring.
So we won't see you doing Saturday Night Live anytime soon.
No, but like I like the idea of doing that kind of sketch stuff more than I think I like doing just regular stand-up in front of people who don't know anything about wrestling.
Yeah, that would be awkward. Like, you tell a joke and they just all kind of look at you and it's like crickets, chirp, 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 you know?
Well, it would be
that,
about wrestling, yeah, if they don't know anything about it.
And it's like, oh, hey, let's go see this guy, and then you're talking about pro wrestling and they're like, what?
Right.
Yeah, that would be awkward. So
when I make anything, like, I always make it with the idea. I try to make my wrestling stuff with the idea that even if you're like the lowest on the level of a wrestling fan, you'd still understand and get it. So if you look at, like, even like the Creatives Have Nothing For You on YouTube, or the Worst Promo Evers, or I do a series on Howl.fm that takes a look back at, like, old time fringe wrestling. Like, I never take it. I'll never tell something like an inside wrestling term or whatever, thinking that, like, everyone will understand it. I'll always try to break it down so, like, the lowest person could even still understand what's going on.
That's awesome.
Yeah. I don't want to ostracize anybody.
No, that's not good, especially when you're on stage and they can, like, maybe throw things or something. That would be bad. Well, you don't want that.
I'm not worried about that. In Edinburgh, I'd be my own bouncer, and people, they'd all find it funny because, like, all the comedians were, you know, like, artsy types, and I'm just this jock guy coming to the comedy festival. And so if someone screwed with me, I'd jump off stage and I'd bounce them right out, and I always kind of get a laugh too. But I was just
sorry, that's hilarious because it feels like in Scotland that would go, and they'd probably cheer you to do it too.
Yep, I'm comedy's bouncer.
That's awesome. Earlier this year, you returned to Ring of Honor in April. What was it like to finally return back to Ring of Honor after such a long absence? And are you excited to be a part of ROH's Final Battle on December 2nd?
Yeah, I returned at WrestleMania weekend, and I did a pretty. People like to think it was an epic promo on why I should return, and I got into it with Jay Lethal, and we did a pay-per-view match in Chicago. And I've came back to Ring of Honor. I don't have a match yet for Final Battle, but I'm hoping to be there for Final Battle. And I've been kind of in there as of late. Dalton Castle and I have been teaming, which I think is a nice little tag team, and it's been nice. I left there years ago, and a little bit of chip on my shoulder. You know, a new regime kind of took over, and I think didn't know who I was, that I was a part of the show since 2002. And I don't think it's any secret that Jim Cornette didn't like me as a wrestler and like my style. So, you know, as he got me out of the company, I held a little grudge. And as soon as he left, they invited me back, but I said no thank you. And it's been 5 years, and I thought, you know, maybe it was time to come back and kind of have a nice positive vibe in my life. Like, I didn't need that kind of negativity, and so I think by coming back and bridging those gaps, it's been really nice.
I was gonna say, it sounds like it's been a kind of almost a cathartic experience after such a long absence to come back and start again and be with them. And we all know that Dalton Castle is just absolutely amazing. I adore him and everything that he does. So it excites me to know that you guys are together.
Yeah. He might be trying, you know, with the way Dalton works, he might be trying to make me one of his boys. I don't know, but it has been. Cathartic's a good word. It's been nice on my soul to go back there, be welcomed back in the locker room, be looked at, you know, as a veteran and a leader and someone who can help and also help towards the product. So it's been nice. That's
good. That's great. So, well, I want to wish you the best of luck. Everybody, remember, check out Colt Cabana and others in Wrestling Diaries 3, available for pre-order right now at coltmerch.com and shipping everywhere starting November 6th.
Yep, and if you buy it and you want it shipped, we signed like 1,000 DVD cover cards. So Grado, Kikutaro, and myself, you'll get an autograph of all of us on the DVD cover card, and we'll put that in for free. And my website is coltcabana.com, and that, like, it has everything, every info, all my Twitter at Colt Cabana, Instagram at Colt Cabana, but it has, you know, everything on me that you can find. And hit it up and say hi to me on social media.
Well, everybody do that. I know we will. So thank you so much, Colt.
Thank you. I appreciate you having me on.